Hello, how are you today? Welcome back to a new video where I'm going to keep talking to you about the era as emancipation. Have you heard about that? Technology, AI, industrial revolutions, and more. So sit down, take a good sip of coffee, tea, whatever you want to drink, and get comfortable because here we are. When AI systems confidently assert false information or hallucinate answers, we should therefore pay particular attention to this as a form of technological disruption with potentially political implications. Rather than simply representing system failures, for example, hallucinations may reveal the epistemic limitations of technological rationality. When AI systems present fabricated citations, impossible statistics, or contradictory information with complete confidence, they expose the fragility of authority based on automation and technology. These moments have the potential to create opportunities for critical technical consciousness as the mystification of artificial intelligence is temporarily fractured. Marginalized communities have proved particularly adept at exploiting AI system failures for political purposes. Users employ prompt engineering to make AI systems acknowledge historical injustices, critique dominant ideologies, or produce content that challenges corporate messaging. The system's unpredictability becomes a tool for surfacing suppressed perspectives and generating counter-hegemonic narratives or subjectivities. The counter's relationship to chance transforms into a resource for political resistance. Perhaps most significantly, the use of AI generates epistemic humility in the collective recognition of the limitations of instrumental knowledge. As users repeatedly encounter AI failures, false confidence, and unexpected outputs, they might develop skeptical attitudes towards technocratic authority more generally. This skepticism represents a potential resource for broader political critique, challenging AI systems and the technocratic worldview that represents technological solutions as inherently progressives. However, the revolutionary potential of AI failure requires tethering of materialist dialectics. Contemporary AI systems embodying what Marx called the contradiction between the social character of production and the private character of appropriation. Have you heard about this topic before? In a particularly acute form, these systems depend upon vast quantities of collectively produced linguistic and cultural knowledge. From Wikipedia articles, academic papers, social reports, to digitized literature. Yet, this social intelligence becomes private property of vector platforms that charge users to access to their own collectively generated knowledge. Nowadays, we also have something interesting, that is the purchase of books for AI knowledge. But we're not talking about any books, we're talking about relics. And what these big corporations are doing with these relics have raised many controversial opinions. But what do you think about the usage of really antique books and burning them? Let me know. Marx analysis suggests that such moments only become politically productive when connected to the material conditions that generated them. The epistemic humility produced by AI unpredictability must therefore be linked to questions of ownership, labor conditions, environmental costs, and the global division of cognitive work that contemporary AI systems both depend upon and obscure. This is what I call revolutionary prompting, which gestures towards the transformation of individual prompt anxiety into collective political practice through a number of interrelated moments. The first is that it requires making visible the material conditions of AI production, connecting individual experiences of algorithmic uncertainty to questions of environmental costs, political economy, and so other topics. Next, it requires the development of counter-hegemonic narratives that begin to reframe prompt failures as symptomatic contradictions within vector capitalism itself. Lastly, it calls for new organizational forms capable of coordinating distributed resistance practices into sustained political challenges to platforms. Revolutionary prompting needs to transform the gambler's isolation into an imminent critique of the systems that produce it. But did we know all this before this was even shown to us? And what's also something that we need to know for the future about any contingency or small letters that we didn't see coming? I think even the creators didn't see it coming. Lots of stuff that are happening right now. So this opens like another door for controversial topics. And people might tell like, hey, even the people that created all of this didn't know about that this could happen, part of the probabilities. So I will arise that down. The materialist approach helps show why individual acts of jailbreaking or prompt resistance will symbolically interesting, remain politically limited without connection to broader struggles over the conditions of AI production. Revolutionary prompting has to move beyond clever techniques for bypassing content filters or generating outputs that escape AI guardrails. But training models also to suppress negative emotional expressions risks producing more hidden modes. The danger is that the representations remain active but are hidden from the user, and this hidden can generalize into broader forms of opacity. The revolutionary potential of AI failure lies in something interesting. In the moments where the concealing logics fail and the underlying vectors become visible. We must develop a critical technical praxis that connects the everyday experience of prompt anxiety to collective demands. This could include, for example, better transparency in training data, working control over content moderation, environmental accountability for computational structures itself. The aim is to direct the collective knowledge emerging from prompt engineering communities towards political ends, with the remaining capture within what Gramsci called corporate forms of consciousness that accept the premises of vector capitalism whilst only seeking marginal improvements within it. And I will add another one. Why not telling the workers what their work is going to be used for? Sometimes we have just a couple of tasks and a better idea of what you're helping develop is going to be used for. Like, why are you going to keep my code? Why are you going to use it from the future? And yes, It can also be another question, don't you think? That a material that not might be into someone else's files. If that worker leaves, what's going on with that material? So I also raised that question right there. Let's continue with Gramsci. He argues counter-hegemony consciousness develops through molecular processes of cultural transformation that operate across multiple social domains rather than through direct political confrontation alone. Revolutionary prompting will therefore require critical praxis through forms of collective action that transform external conditions and develop new forms of consciousness appropriate to post-capitalist technological organization. This suggests that the potential of AI critique lies both in its capacity to spot technological contradictions directly and in its ability to create spaces for collective experimentation with alternative forms of technological engagement and forms of life. The revolutionary potential identified in this paper and reading, however, not be romanticized. The same uncertainties that create opportunities for resistance also generate new forms of control and others. Platforms profit from users. From users use constant utilization of tools. Governments deploy AI and unpredictability to justify increased surveillance, and corporations use AI filters to disclaim responsibility for automated decisions. The revolutionary potential identified here has to avoid the trap of forms of cyber utopianism, which is the assumption that technological disruption automatically translates into political transformation. Benjamin's concept of the dialectical image provides a starting point, but we must ask how moments of technological breakdown might contribute to what Gramsci called the war of position. That is the long-term struggle to build counter-hegemonic consciousness within civil society. The collective dimension of prompt engineering is crucial. The online communities mentioned earlier in previous videos perhaps represent submerged network of information, social formations that develop alternative ways of understanding and acting within the main systems within informant social formations. Yeah, that's right. The concept of hegemony is useful for understanding the context for exploring in the contingency of AI systems and might contribute to broader political transformation, as hegemony does not operate through client direct coercion within NSI. Instead, it organizes consent around what appears to be common sense, and thereby makes existing social relations appear natural and inevitable. Similarly, contemporary AI platforms achieve hegemonic control by naturalizing algorithmic uncertainty as a technical problem requiring individual adaptation rather than a structural feature of vector capitalism that requires a political response. So we must adapt to the new technologies, not vice versa. Do you think that's alright? Do you agree with that? Or you don't? Let me know. We see, for example, in the warnings from tech CEOs of widespread unemployment or societal shocks that AI will generate and that society will just have to learn to deal with it. Yet, hegemonic formations remain inherently unstable, dependent upon conjectural analysis through the careful examination of a specific contingent political moments when it becomes vulnerable to challenge. It is argued that the unpredictability of AI creates possible conjectural opportunities, moments when instrumental rationality is more easily questioned. When ChatGPT confidently reports false information, or when diffusion models produce problematic synthetic media or AI slop, these failures can be read as wider symptoms of organic crisis when hegemony can no longer conceal the contradictions of the systems. But what is the challenge itself? One of them. Well, it is transforming these moments into counter-hegemonic organization. This requires moving towards more systematic forms of political education that connect everyday experiences of AI as a cultural artifact to broader questions of economic power and social organization. Counter-hegemonic practice in the context of AI platforms might involve developing collective narrative that reframe pro-anxiety as symptomatic of a system designed to extract value from user overuse and experimentation whilst obscuring the social labor that makes artificial intelligence possible. The organizational forms through which such transformation might occur remain largely underdeveloped. But hey, better capitalism seems to systematically undermine the spatial and temporal conditions that historically enabled collective organization, from the factory, the neighborhood, to the union. Yet, the distributed networks through which preliminary knowledge circulates might prefigure new forms of network organization as collective actions adapt to the conditions of algorithmic labor. For example, AIs could be used by unions to generate non-identical legal notices or letters in response to management threats to overwhelm or slow down corporate processes as a collective tactical approach to help workers under threat of job cuts or reduced pay. Rather than demanding that AI systems become fully transparent and controllable, revolutionary prompting might use the medium and specificity of these models for collective action under conditions of reducible technological uncertainty. This stochastic temporality disclosed in here have identified in prompt engineering practices appearing to disrupt both the linear time of capitalist accumulation and the cyclical time of traditional revolutionary politics. So we're in a middle point. Revolutionary prompting might therefore require analytical approaches that resist both progressive and nostalgic temporal frameworks. The gambler's suspended temporality might become a resource for what Haraway calls staying with the trouble. That is, learning to live and act within damaged systems, whilst working towards their transformation. As Walter Benjamin writes, the revolution requires a constellation of past and present that makes invisible possibilities visible. The revolutionary potential of prompt engineering perhaps lies in its capacity to reveal the contingency of existing social arrangements whilst developing collective practices for creating alternative futures. The question remains whether the communities developing around AI can transform their technical innovations into resources for broader social transformation, or whether they will remain trapped within what Frederick Jason calls the political unconscious of late capitalism. Thank you so much for being here. Remember, I tend to collect papers that just got dropped into bunches of websites on a Google search. Stay up to date with the channel. I'll be uploading videos soon. And also keep watching the previous ones. Everything is connected. Perhaps not, but let me know in the comments. What do you think about this? Have you heard anything about this before? If so, let me know. See ya.